Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're going to be, exploring the world of David Goggins. His autobiography, Can't Hurt Me. And what I find so fascinating is how he took all this pain, unimaginable pain, and turned it into fuel for these just incredible achievements.
Yeah, it's a really powerful example of what we can do as humans, not just surviving, but thriving in the face of some pretty intense adversity. And that's what we're going to kind of look at. We're not just going to summarize his story, but really look at the how, like the tools, the philosophies, the mental, approaches that he developed that I think, we can all learn from.
Absolutely. And I think anyone who's heard of Goggins knows, he's a Navy SEAL, he's an ultramarathon runner. I mean, the list goes on. But what I think sometimes gets lost is that he wasn't, born this superhuman. His childhood was, to put it bluntly, horrific.
Yeah, and he details, the abuse that he suffered from his father, both physical and emotional. And, working in that roller rink, it wasn't this fun family business. It was a place where he witnessed, cruelty and manipulation on a regular basis. And it's not to dwell on the negative, but it's really the foundation of this whole concept of, callousing the mind that he talks about.
Yeah. Callousing the mind, it sounds intense, and it is intense, but it's not about being like, some emotionless robot. So can you break down what he actually means by that?
Yeah, he's talking about intentionally leaning into discomfort, physical discomfort, but also mental discomfort. And it's not reckless risk-taking. It's recognizing that we build resilience by facing our challenges, not by avoiding them. He talks about, there's that chilling story of him as a kid waiting for his father's beatings. And the anticipation was almost as damaging as the physical pain itself.
Yeah. And that's what really gets me, like the psychological aspect of it.
Yeah.
And, most of us think, well, we won't go through what he did, but we all have those inner demons, those voices of self-doubt. And Goggins argues that instead of trying to silence them, we need to confront them head on.
Absolutely. And he uses that pain as fuel. So even when he escapes, with his mother to his grandparents, it's safer, but they're still facing poverty and racial prejudice. Life doesn't suddenly become easy. And so instead of letting that crush him, it solidifies that desire to prove everyone wrong, to create a radically different future for himself.
And that's where, his journey takes a turn. He fails out of high school, and that's this huge wake-up call. He could easily continue down the path that he saw so many others take.
Exactly. And this is where we see that self-awareness emerge. He looks in the mirror and he hates what he sees. Overweight, depressed, stuck. He joins the Air Force hoping for some structure, but even when he's medically discharged, it doesn't break him. It almost strengthens that resolve.
Yeah, and he loses over 100 pounds in 3 months just to join the Air Force. I mean, that takes incredible willpower. And then he sets his sights on the Navy SEALs, specifically after watching a documentary about Hell Week, and he's jealous.
Right. It's not about enjoying suffering, but recognizing its power. And Goggins sees these guys enduring the toughest training in the world, and it speaks to something deep inside of him. He's not just seeking a challenge. I think he's seeking redemption. He's proving, first and foremost, to himself what he's capable of.
So this overweight guy wants to be a SEAL. The recruiters must have laughed him out of the room.
Right. Most of them did. But he finds one, Stephen Shaljo, who sees past the exterior and sees that burning drive that Goggins has. But even then, he has to lose weight again just to qualify. And it's while working as an exterminator that he has this almost epiphany.
Yeah, the cockroach story. He's spraying poison there, scattering, and he realizes, wait a minute. I've been acting like a cockroach, avoiding challenges, hiding from life. And it's such a vivid image. And it speaks to that brutal honesty that he has with himself.
Yeah, and honesty without action is meaningless, right?
Right.
So he starts running. He starts studying for the ASVAB, things he thought he wasn't smart enough for. He aces the test, showing that believing in yourself is the first step. But SEAL training is a whole other level.
Yeah, and this is where Hell Week comes in. 5 days of sleep deprivation, freezing water, constant physical and mental pressure. It's designed to break you. Most of us, I think, wouldn't last an hour. But Goggins, he finds a kindred spirit in Bill Freak Brown, another guy who had, everything stacked against him.
Right, and they find strength in each other. They're pushing through this unimaginable pain. And it's during Hell Week that Goggins' mindset really shifts. He doesn't just endure the suffering. It's like he starts to almost welcome it.
Yeah, it's like he's tapping into that reservoir of pain from his past. But instead of letting it control him, he's weaponizing it, running on broken legs, enduring those ice baths. It's almost superhuman.
And it's not that he enjoys the pain itself, but what it represents. He's proving to himself more than anyone that he's not defined by his past. He can choose how he responds to suffering. And remarkably, he not only survives Hell Week, he excels. He graduates top of his class. And that's what's so, I don't know, fascinating about Goggins is that he doesn't just rest on his laurels after becoming a SEAL. For most people, that would be the peak, right? But for him, it's just another stepping stone.
Yeah, it's like he's constantly searching out these ways to just test his limits, to prove to himself that he's still capable of, growth and evolution. And this is where we get into, ultra marathons, where he's really pushing his body and mind to the brink.
Yeah, his first 100-mile race is a perfect example of this. I mean, he goes in with minimal training and stress fractures in both feet. Most people wouldn't even get out of bed.
Right.
With that kind of pain.
And he just tapes them up and keeps going. It's mind-boggling. And this is where his cookie jar technique comes in, right?
Exactly. And it's not like some magical trick. It's about consciously harnessing the power of your mind. He visualizes this jar filled with all his past victories, right? Moments where he overcame adversity, and he draws on those memories to fuel him through the toughest moments.
So instead of letting the pain consume him, he's using it as this reminder of his own strength and resilience.
Yeah, he's not just focused on the past, though. He's also very present in his why, his reasons for pushing himself to these extremes. He remembers the pain of his childhood, the feeling of being trapped and powerless, and that fuels this determination to create a different life, a life of purpose and meaning.
And it's like he's saying you can either let your past, define you, or you can use it as fuel to propel you forward. And, for him, running became this form of therapy, a way to process the trauma and pain that he had endured.
And it's never about winning for Goggins, right? It's about that process of self-discovery. It's about the challenge of pushing past what he thinks his limitations are.
And he certainly does that in races like the Badwater Ultramarathon, which is 135 miles through Death Valley, one of the hottest places on earth.
And he finished 5th overall. He's beating out seasoned runners who had trained specifically for that event. It's incredible.
It makes you wonder what we're all truly capable of if we could tap into, even a fraction of that mental fortitude.
And then there's his attempt to break the world record for pull-ups. He completes over 4,000 in 17 hours. But even in this, seemingly superhuman feat, there's a lesson about failure.
Right, because he falls short of the record. And he analyzes this setback with the same brutal honesty that he applies to everything else.
He recognizes that he let distractions get in the way, that he didn't fully respect the magnitude of the challenge, and that he didn't create the optimal environment for success.
There's no ego involved. Just this relentless pursuit of self-improvement. He owns his mistakes, sees them as opportunities for growth, which I think is such a powerful lesson.
Absolutely. It's so easy to blame, outside factors when we fall short. But Goggins reminds us that true growth comes from taking ownership and learning from those missteps.
And then life throws him another curveball, right? He's diagnosed with a serious heart condition, a hole in his heart.
Yeah.
This is something that could have killed him during any of his, extreme endeavors.
It's a stark reminder that none of us are invincible. But, Goggins being Goggins, he sees this as another challenge to overcome.
Right.
Yeah,
he's amazed that he's accomplished so much with this condition, running ultra marathons, completing SEAL training, all with a heart that wasn't functioning at full capacity.
It further solidifies that belief in the power of the mind to overcome those physical limitations.
So he undergoes surgery. He's told to scale back his activities, but of course he doesn't exactly take it easy.
Right, he takes up ultra triathlons, which are these insane feats of endurance. They combine swimming, cycling, and running over extreme distances.
I mean, come on.
It's crazy.
It's crazy.
And even when he faces setbacks in these events, he finds a way to turn them into lessons. There's this great story about him getting lost during the running portion of an ultra triathlon. And instead of giving up, he uses ingenuity and determination to get back on track, even if it means breaking the rules.
Yeah, it's a perfect example of that thinking shooter mentality. A term they use in the military to describe a soldier who can adapt and improvise in, really challenging situations.
It's not about blindly following the rules. It's about finding a way to accomplish the mission, even when things are stacked against you, which is, a valuable skill in every area of life.
Work, relationships, personal goals. We all face these challenges where the ability to think critically and adapt can be the difference between, success and failure.
And Goggins stresses that importance of starting at zero, meaning constantly striving for improvement, never being complacent with what you've already achieved.
Yeah, it's a powerful concept because it means there's always room for growth, no matter how much you've already accomplished.
And he even reflects on his own shortcomings. Like he talks about how he wished he had learned the lessons of leadership earlier in his military career.
Right. He acknowledges a time when he fell short of his own standards and emphasizes like the importance of humility, fighting for your team, and never looking down on those who are struggling.
It's about inspiring others to be their best selves, creating this culture of excellence through support and encouragement, not just individual achievement.
And then we see this beautiful shift in his journey. He retires from the Navy and dedicates himself to helping others.
Yeah, he becomes this sought-after public speaker, working with everyone from Fortune 500 companies to professional athletes.
He even reconciles with his estranged brother, finding a way to heal old wounds and build a stronger relationship.
It shows how his personal transformation has extended outward, impacting the lives of everyone around him.
And he still doesn't stop pushing himself physically. Like, he participates in events like the Ultraman World Championship. This 3-day endurance race that includes a 6.2-mile swim, a 261.4-mile bike ride, and a 52.4-mile double marathon.
Oh my God.
It's insane.
That's insane.
And he even faces a near-death experience during one of these events, like collapsing from exhaustion and dehydration.
Wow.
But he comes back stronger, using these experiences to teach others about resilience and the importance of, never giving up on yourself.
And through it all, he just emphasizes that mental toughness, that the mind is the ultimate weapon.
Right. He challenges us to question our own limits, examine the excuses that we make, and embrace the transformative power of suffering.
He reminds us that true growth often occurs outside of our comfort zones, that by pushing ourselves beyond what we think we're capable of, we can unlock this strength and resilience that we never thought possible.
And it's a message that resonates so deeply with people from, all walks of life. And it's like he's saying we all have this potential for, greatness, but we're often our own biggest obstacles.
Yeah, he challenges us to become our own accountability partners, like to hold ourselves to a higher standard and never, ever settle for mediocrity.
And he talks about how he used to be so paralyzed by this fear of failure, afraid to even try.
But he realized through all of his experiences that the fear itself was often more debilitating than the actual failure.
So he had to learn to embrace the possibility of failing and see it as a stepping stone to success.
And that's such I think, a powerful shift in perspective because it frees you up to take more risks and to push yourself beyond that comfort zone.
It's about understanding those setbacks.
Yeah.
They're inevitable, but they don't have to define us.
It's all about how you respond to those setbacks.
Yeah, and Goggins, he doesn't want us to become carbon copies of him.
Right.
He wants us to find our own path.
Exactly. Discover your own why, and use that as motivation to push yourself.
Yeah, and he even talks about like finding joy in the struggle, like
Cool.
embracing the process of self-discovery.
It's not about just seeking out pain for the sake of pain. It's about understanding that growth often requires, some level of discomfort.
And that the journey itself can be just as rewarding as the destination.
This deep dive into Goggins' life and his whole philosophy has been, I think, so eye-opening.
It's a reminder that we all have the potential for greatness within us.
And it's not about being born with, special talents or advantages.
It's about the choices that we make, the mindset we cultivate, the actions that we take every single day.
Goggins' story really challenges us to confront our own limitations, to question those excuses we tell ourselves.
And to really embrace that transformative power of self-discipline.
So as you move forward, remember those key takeaways.
Embrace the power of callousing your mind.
Yeah. Find your why and use that as fuel.
And never stop pushing yourself beyond that comfort zone.
What resonated with you the most from Goggins' story?
How can you apply those lessons to your own life?
Keep those questions in mind as you move forward, as you continue on this journey of, self-discovery and growth.
Remember, that power to transform your life, it lies within you.
It's time to unleash it.